Fuck you,
Oh.
Craig.
Damn,
Where
bro,
the
he just
sun
got
don't
in.
shine.
Good evening.
Hi guys. So can we talk about FNAF, please? Can we discuss Five Nights at Freddy's? I would really like to discuss Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, okay,
Foxy, no, not my ass. That's
See,
the
don't
only
touch me
experience I've
there. You're
had
not
in
my
Freddy's. I
face.
don't know what you're talking about. That's as far as I got. Remember day 2? You were here. It was
Right.
horrible. I'm terrified of those games because it was just, hey, why don't you open that door? Okay. Shh. Tink, 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 tink. No, no,
Right,
no,
because
no.
Dude,
especially
I
in the
think that's
first
just a
game,
thing for Leos. We always get the like the monster just comes to us like, okay, let's challenge it.
okay, so like I don't know if
Fuck, we can't
Brad
do
or
it.
Luke have played FNAF before. Like, so night one is pretty chill. You're just sitting in the security office, keeping the doors, shut. The animatronics are walking around all slow and lumber-like, and it gives you this false sense of confidence. Then night two, you're like, I'm ready. And then, like, you see all of the animatronics doing their thing. Then Foxy shows up, and he's just fucking sprinting down the hallway like a madman coming to kick your ass. It's terrifying.
It is horrible. It is the most
I have
terrifying.
the VR edition, so I get to see that shit in 3D
Oh my
every
god.
time I play it.
No, thank you.
Yeah, so I
I can't believe it with VR because you'll see my ass literally like. This is what's gonna happen. If you're watching it like it's streaming, you'll see me look at it, hear me yelling, and run towards it. But in reality, I'm just like, ah! Fucking wall. Because I forgot
the
how
thing,
movement
like-
works.
But here's the thing, like,
in the first 4 games, the entire time you're playing, you're sitting down. Cannot
Right.
escape. So you're just stuck in this room. These animatronics are just like for that ass boy. Yeah, so I got some notes here and I've assembled the actual story of Five Nights at Freddy's. And there's been a recent game. It came out like a year ago. It was called Five Nights at Freddy's. Help, not Help Wanted. That's the VR thing. Was basically like this. It takes place in like a big pizzaplex, right? So there's going to be a DLC coming out that kind of continues the story. There's a new series of books based on Five Nights at Freddy's is about to come out, and apparently they're working on a Five Nights at Freddy's movie that Blumhouse is producing, so I'm fucking stoked about that. I love this franchise. So,
I love Scooby Snacks. Oh, carry on.
It's actually pretty fucked, so I think it's worth a discussion. So it starts off in 1970s with these two guys, Henry Emily and William Afton. I'm telling you right now, William Afton is an asshole, and we'll find out why. So the Afton family, he has 3 kids. He has Michael, Elizabeth, and the third kid was never really named, but people just kind of call him Evan. And then Henry has a daughter named Charlotte, but everybody calls her Charlie. Like, these two guys in the 70s, like the masters of robotics. Like, they essentially are the first people to be like, hey, let's make robots. But they don't have the technology to do it yet. What they end up doing is opening up this restaurant called Freddy's Family Diner. And what they build around, it's kind of like Chuck E. Cheese. You have pizza, there's, like a stage, and they build these, they're called spring suits, where you can either wear them, like, regular suits, or you can put a animatronic skeleton in them, and the springs will clamp down around the skeleton bones, and the skeleton can move the suit for them. And so they build 2 suits. There is a bear, Springlock Freddy. There's a rabbit, Springlock Bonnie. So Henry, he uses the Springlock Freddy suit to perform for the kids, and William uses the Springlock Bonnie suit to perform for the kids. Now, the thing about these suits is, like, they were really well built. Their biggest flaw is if they were exposed to too much moisture, it would automatically clamp down. So, like, if you were a person inside of a suit that got wet, they're fucked. So, like, the restaurant gets really popular. The 1980s rolls around, and they create more animatronics. Freddy, the bear, Bonnie, the rabbit, Chica, the chicken, and Foxy, the pirate fox. And it becomes really successful, and to the point where William's son Evan is completely obsessed with the restaurant. Like, he has the toys, he has the t-shirts, he just loves the restaurant. Brother Michael, however, like his father, is equally an asshole. So he decides, hey, I'm going to take this thing that my little brother loves, make him absolutely piss scared of it. So he buys this Foxy mask, just starts hiding in random places around the house, and jump scaring his little brother into, like, just tears on the floor in the fetal position, till Evan is just terrified of Freddy Fazbear's. And so in 1983, Evan is getting ready to have a birthday. And Michael's like, hey, we should have it at Freddy Fazbear's. And he convinces... So he convinces the family that Evan have the birthday party at Freddy Fazbear's. So the party happens there, and and Michael gets a bunch of his friends who come along wearing different Freddy masks. So, like, one has a Chica mask, one has a Bonnie mask, Freddy mask. He has his Foxy mask. In the middle of the party, while his father is distracted, they're like, hey, you know what would be great? Take this traumatized child and stick him in Freddy's mouth. So they pick him up, they shove him into, like, they put his head in Freddy's mouth. Well, Evan was crying at the time, and his tears slipped into the Springlock Freddy suit, which caused the jaws of Freddy clamp down on Evan Afton's head in front of everybody. And, like, Cole and William and everybody that was there just kind of like, oh shit. So they rush Evan to the hospital. Evan ends up passing away because, once again, his brother is an asshole. So the family diner shuts down. There was a second restaurant called Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. And they decide to move all of the business there. But they want to keep the suits, or William wanted to keep the original Springlock suits in the back of the restaurant for quote-unquote nostalgic purposes. But at this time, William, after losing his, like, probably his second favorite kid, just really does not like Michael, like, at all. Like, most of the time he pretends that Michael doesn't even exist, and that's kind of why he was such a dick. But William starts this, like, downward spiral into just fucking insanity. So Henry and William together invent this new animatronic called the Marionette. And it is basically a a fully operational AI that they built in the 80s. And what it was designed to do was to hide in a box, and the kids would be given these different colored bracelets. So its first job was to pop out of the box like a jack-in-the-box and surprise kids with presents, which, first of all, I get it's the 80s, still really fucking creepy. Second of all,
Yep.
well, I'm just imagining it popping out of the box like, hey kids, you want to see a dead body? Second of all, like, it was programmed to specifically protect kids with a certain colored wristband. So it was a security AI. And it was programmed to protect these kids no matter what. So,
They
during
thought an
this time-
iRobot.
right. Like, but William kept descending into this psychological madness until he finally just snapped and was like, look, my son was killed. I lost a child. I need to do something that will make me feel better. I can't kill my own son. Wait a minute. Henry has a kid. So he was just like, Ferb, I know what we're going to do today. And during a party, Charlie ended up getting locked outside. And she ended up getting locked outside during the rain, and these kids were like putting boxes on top of the marionette's box, so it couldn't get out to let her back in. Here comes William, pulls up, ganks her in the middle of the street, and just leaves her body in the back of the restaurant to die. But at this point, Marionette like He-Man's its way out of the box, crawls out of the restaurant, finds Charlie, and as she passes away, her soul gets transferred into Marionette. So she is now possessing Marionette. And William, after getting away with literal child murder, was like, all right, I guess this is a thing I do now. And over the next few years, he gets 5 more victims. The first victim, named Susie, who her dog was hit by a car, presumably by William Afton, and he dressed up in the Bonnie suit and was like, hey, your dog's not dead. He's over here in this back room. We're having a great time. And so, like, he lures her into the back room, and things happen. 4 more kids end up going missing around the restaurant. This whole time, nobody suspects it's the crazy guy wearing the bunny suit at all. And so, the second victim is a kid named Gabriel. The third victim is a kid named Jeremy. 4th victim is a kid named Fritz. And then the last victim is this girl named Cassidy. And she's important. We'll get to her in a second. But Marionette, being possessed by by Charlie Emily, decides, wait a minute, if I can possess this suit, I can teach them how to possess the other suits so they can stay alive. And Gabriel becomes Freddy, Jeremy becomes Bonnie, Fritz becomes Foxy, and Cassidy becomes Freddy Fazbear, who is like the big, like, what's it called? Like, mascot animatronic, the one that doesn't go on stage. So after these murders, William is finally suspected. He goes to court, but basically the judge is like, hey, did you kill these kids? And William's like, no, I did not kill these kids. And the judge was like, well, good enough for me. And he lets William go. And then he separates from the company because Henry is distraught of like, damn, my daughter is dead and we have no idea who did it. And William was like, yeah, we have no idea who could have done this horrific act. I feel so sorry for you, my best friend. He leaves the company and starts this thing called Afton Robotics. And after noticing that the marionette was acting funny after he killed Charlie, he was like, I wonder if she's possessing this robot. If she's possessing the robot, she can't die again, which makes her immortal. Yeah, that's that shit I like. So he becomes obsessed with gaining immortality through robotics. And in doing so, he creates more robots to basically like go out, lure kids in, kill them, so he can study the effects of like possession through metal. And he creates this line of robots called the Circus Bots. And he opens up this restaurant called Circus Baby's Pizza World. And the robots are Circus Baby, Laura, who's this little like foot-tall ballerina, Funtime Freddy, who has a little hand puppet of a bunny named Bon Bon, Funtime Foxy, Mini Rena, who's like Ballora but like 6 inches tall, and Bitty Babs, who are just like robot babies. And his daughter Elizabeth just absolutely loves Circus Baby. Like every time they're at the restaurant, she's wanting to go play with Circus Baby. She's wanting to go see Circus Baby in the back. William's like, I designed these robots to kill children. Letting one play with my daughter, probably not a good idea. So he says no. But one night during the like while the restaurant was closing, Emily sneaks off into the back where all of the robots are like in dormancy, and she turns on Circus Baby, who offers her some ice cream to come closer, and then scoops out Elizabeth's like body. So Elizabeth is killed by her own father's creation. And then William is like, fuck, it happened again. What am I going to do? And then he realizes that Circus Baby's eyes that were once blue are now green, like his daughter Elizabeth's eyes. So he figures out Elizabeth is now possessing Circus Baby. And he was like, I can actually work with this. And but in this entire time, like throughout all of these murders, he blames his son Michael for everything, even though Michael, like, his only crime really was being an asshole and, you know, accidentally murdering his younger brother, but that's William's worse. So William gets this idea of opening up another company called Circus Babies Entertainment and Rentals. And guess what you get to do with that company? You get to rent out your own animatronic built by William Afton for your child's birthday parties. And so, yeah, that goes over well. 4 kids go missing, and eventually all of the circus animatronics get possessed also. And then William tricks Michael into going to the old location, the original Freddy Fazbear's, and like getting rid of the original spirits. And that's where game 1 kind of takes place, where you are Michael, you are the night guard, and you're trying to, you know, survive the 5 nights and figure out what's going on with these animatronics. However, around this time, Circus Baby, this is Five Nights at Freddy's sister location, where Michael is in the second location, and he's trying to get the spirits out of all of the circus animatronics. Because, you know, shocker, the spirits of these kids are kind of pissed that they were murdered and are possessing these robots. They're a little miffed. So Circus Baby tricks the other animatronics into going to this thing called the Scooper, which is a giant claw that rips out the endoskeleton from inside of the animatronics and sets them aside for like maintenance and stuff. She's like, hey, if we rip out each other in the Scooper and become one body, we'll be able to be free and have a normal life, and we won't have to like hunt down kids anymore. Everybody's like, yeah, great, that sounds keen. They form this thing called Ennard. As soon as Ennard is made, Circus Baby immediately takes control of the consciousness of the amalgamation, because she, for some reason, is just so loyal to her father that anything William says, she's like, yeah, I got you. Like, you want to hunt down kids? Let's do this. You need me to hunt down Michael? I'm game. So Michael ends up getting lured by Circus Baby into the scooping room, where she scoops him, and Ennard climbs into his body and starts living life as Michael Afton. But the problem with hiding inside of a dead body is eventually it will start to decompose. So they were kind of walking around in this decomposing body until they couldn't blend into society anymore. And they were like, it ain't working. So they jump out of the dead body into the sewers. As soon as Ennard leaves the body, the spirit of Michael Afton was like, hey, it's free real estate. So he possesses... he possesses his own dead body, effectively like becoming the only lich in Five Nights at Freddy's. And like, kind of going along with his whole theme of murder victims being pissed at William, he's like, I did not appreciate that whatsoever. So I'm going to hunt down my father and wring his fucking neck. And so the second the second Freddy's Fazbear Restaurants opens a few years later, and
Of course it does.
as Toy Freddy, because this whole time, like, Henry still has not figured out that William killed his daughter. So he's trying to keep the company alive, but he's also like become this really reclusive, like, genius billionaire. So he like opens up this restaurant in memory of his daughter, and he creates Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, the puppet who is based off of the marionette, Balloon Boy, and there was a Toy Foxy. It kept breaking down. The maintenance people kept repairing it. The kids would find it, pick it apart again, and then try putting it back together like a sadistic Lego set. And the animatronics team were just like, okay, this is a game now. Arrange this animatronic however you see fit. We're done. So it had like its head on its arm, its leg where its head should be, and it became known as Mangle because it was just this like mangle of parts. And once again, all of the original animatronics kept in the back of the restaurant for nostalgic purposes. They're still possessed, don't get me wrong. And this makes William go back to that restaurant, kill more kids, get them to possess toy animatronics, and the puppet, who is now like is the new version of Marionette, so Charlie is now possessing the puppet. He's like, nope, don't worry guys, I fucking got you, and revives the souls into the toy animatronics. They're like, did not appreciate that. Where's that William motherfucker? And they start hunting down William. And then 1933 happens. to where the original Freddy's Family Diner opens. And William is finally like, people figure out, hey, everywhere William is, seem to go missing. We need to find this motherfucker. So William is on the run, not only from people, but from the literal legion of animatronics are now possessed and trying to get that ass. And he's hiding out in these places. And Henry, around this time, finally pieces it together that, like, wait a minute. My best friend killed my daughter. Fuck that guy. And he joins the hunt for William Afton. So now it's literally everybody in this series versus one motherfucker in a bunny suit. And so Michael gets a job at the reopened Freddy Family Diner, gets fired after a week for tampering with the animatronics to figure out if he can get the souls out, and also his odor, because once again, he is a soul possessing a rotting corpse. A year later, the diner is shut down. William returns to physically break and rip apart the animatronics his damn self. So he's in the middle of doing all of this, but in doing so, he releases the souls trapped inside of the animatronics. And remember that girl Cassidy? He calls her. She introduces herself to Michael as the one he should not have killed, because she has basically rallied all of these souls behind her. Be like, no, we're not afraid of you anymore. I will personally see that I drag you to hell with me. Like, she's probably the most badass 10-year-old in this entire franchise. She gets an army of ghosts and chases William Afton into the back room where the original suits are. And he's like, hey, I still can get into the Springtrap Bonnie suit I originally killed these kids with. And that should make them scared enough to run away. So he gets in, he puts on the Springtrap suit, and he tries to scare these kids, forgets that it's been a year since this place was abandoned. There's cracks in the walls, everything's falling apart, things are dilapidated. Oh, and by the way, the ceiling pipes are leaking. So he gets the suit, puts it on, leaking ceiling, gets the suit wet, and with Afton inside, clamps down on him. And the kids basically watch as Afton bleeds out in his own suit. And they're like, okay, cool. We get to pass on. This guy's dead, and so all of the spirits, go into the afterlife, except...
Oh.
This is kind of fucked. I love it. Except for Cassidy, who purposefully stays behind and goes, no, I'm not done with you yet. And for 30 years, traps Michael Afton in his own form of a purgatory hell loop. Every night, he has to repeatedly face off against every single animatronic abomination that he has created as a serial killer. That's where the game Five Nights Ultimate Custom Night comes in, where he is just trapped in this suit, psychologically reliving the same night for an eternity for 30 years straight, until Cassidy ends up meeting this guy who calls himself Old Man Consequences, fishing by a lake inside William's mind. And Old Man Consequences may or may not be actual God, but Old Man Consequences was like, hey, I know this guy murdered you and all, but like, don't you have better things to do with your time? And Cassidy was like, no, fuck this dude. And Old Man Consequences, like, after some talking to her, finally gets her to chill a little bit and was like, you need to pass on so he can, go face his judgment. Cassidy was like, okay, fine. I will pass on. I will find peace. He's somebody else's problem now. So let's go. But William Afton's mind returns to the suit. So William is now possessing Springtrap Bonnie suit. Because it's so broken, he can't move. So he's just like trapped there on the floor. Then, so a few years later, Henry Emily reopens Fazbear's Entertainment. And he reopens it, and the people in charge of managing the new restaurant are like, man, we need some animatronics. They start looking around the old locations, and they peel back this door, and they're like, oh, there's an original Springtrap Bonnie suit. We can definitely use this at our restaurant. We just need to fix it. And you can guess what ensues next. Around the same time, Michael Afton realizes, oh shit, we're opening the restaurant where my dad is currently possessing a suit. I should probably get involved. And Michael gets a job at the restaurant to make sure his father is in check. Well, his father realizes that Michael is there, so it becomes Michael versus William for a straight week. And they basically try to kill each other until Michael's like, fuck it, burn everything. He traps his father inside and then sets the entire restaurant on fire. He's like, shit, my dad, all of the other animatronics are still somewhere around the country. Because in the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, when you murder somebody, their soul splits into two parts. There's remnant, which is the consciousness that can be trapped in objects. Then there is this material called agony, which is just sheer feeling of being pissed off because you were murdered. And that gets trapped inside objects. With the consciousness gone, all that's left is an army of evil robot animatronics. He's like, fuck, I gotta hunt these down. But Henry is like, you know what? Fuck it. And he steps back into the public light. He opens a place called Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. And make sure that his name is not on the restaurant, it's not on the legal documents. So nobody knows that Henry is actually the one who rebuilt this. He places an ad for a manager of the place. And William, having survived being burned, is like, huh, there's a new Freddy's. I can work with this. And he then becomes Scrap Trap because he's fucked up. And he reunites with his daughter Elizabeth, who is now Scrap Baby, because she was also fucked up in the fire and separated from Ennard. Ennard is now controlled by the consciousness of the original Freddy. And William is like, hey, if we lure all of the remaining possessed animatronics to this restaurant, we can kill them all in one go, and then it'll just be us, and we'll be immortal, and we'll be basically gods. And his daughter was like, yes, father, I will do this. So she starts luring all these other animatronics back to this restaurant, and and Michael or William is kind of directing all of this. Michael gets hired as the manager of this new restaurant, but Henry builds a robot called Lefty, who looks like Freddy but with a microphone in his left hand. Lefty stands for lure, encapsulate, fuse, transport, and extract. It has one job: find the puppet, because the puppet has the soul of his daughter in it. And he's like, I want to free my kid. Lefty traps the puppet. At this point, Lefty traps the puppet, but at this point, early inside of the puppet's body, the oldest animatronic has become so powerful that as soon as she's trapped, she immediately takes over the consciousness of Lefty and was like, yes, this is my Gundam. And she returns, and her father tells her the plan. She agrees, and they go through this whole ordeal of gathering all of the other animatronics across the country to this one restaurant. And there is a scene where Elizabeth corners Michael and is basically like, you've fallen right into my father's trap. He will finally have everything he desires. We'll be immortal. And then Henry's voice comes onto the speakers and goes, "Oh, let me stop you there, bitch." Is actually going on
Damn.
is you guys have been running around all night trying to kill Michael, not even realizing that I've locked and bolted all of the doors in the restaurant shut. It's been on fire for the past 10 minutes. And nobody is getting out of this. And I'm in this restaurant too. Like, Henry is inside of the restaurant just watching everything burn. He's like, for the victims, it's time for your souls to be freed. For you, William, there's a special place in hell waiting for you. And I cannot wait to make sure that I drag your ass to it. So this is the second time William has been burned. And everything is burnt to the ground. All of the other souls are freed. William's consciousness, the slippery little bastard that he is, hides inside of the animatronic chip, which is the only thing that isn't burned or melted inside of Bonnie's suit. And more years go by, Henry, in his will, sells Freddy Fazbear's Entertainment, and another company buys it and decides we're going to relaunch. So they come up with this idea to make a video game about the events that happened at Five Nights at Freddy's. They call it Five Nights at Freddy's. So the Five Nights at Freddy's video games are video games in the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. And they market it as this rogue indie developer trying to talk shit on their company. They're going to make their own video game and make it a VR experience. This is where Help Wanted comes in. And being the white people that they are, they're like, man, how can we do this, not spend a lot of money? And they're like, I bet if we go down to that restaurant where the other animatronics were, we could probably find some technology that'll help us. They go there, and they find a chip inside of Trap's body, inside of Scrap Bonnie's body. And they're like, hey, we can scan this for code, use its memories as the framework of our video game. They take the chip, they scan it into the video game, which then digitizes William Afton's consciousness into a computer virus. And he gets the name of Glitch Trap. And the game is made, nobody realizes he's in there, and they're like, okay, time to test our game. So they get one game tester named Jeremy, who starts complaining of weird things happening. He keeps seeing this digitized rabbit man in the corners waving at him, until he gets so insane he cuts his own face off with a guillotine paper slicer. And they're like, well, gross. Should cover this up and give it to this girl. And they hire a new beta tester who may or may not be this girl named Vanessa. And she's like, guys, I think this game is possessed. And the company is like, I don't believe in ghosts. And so she continues testing the game, and she gets to the point where it's like, oh, this game is definitely possessed. And then William Afton possesses her body through the video game. So she's kind of fighting William's consciousness inside of her own, till they finally come together and create this thing called Vanny. Because William makes her build this cloth rabbit suit. I don't understand what William's thing is with killing people dressed as a rabbit. But it's just his thing. So
Maybe it's the original Easter rabbit.
it's the Easter Bunny, but with murder.
Yeah.
And so she
A murder happy rabbit.
becomes Vanny, and then Freddy Fazbear's Pizzaplex is built over the original site that burned down. That's where the new game takes place, where Vanny is like secretly trying to kill all these kids for William, but she can't find a victim until this kid Gregory shows up. And Gregory may or may not be a robot, but we haven't figured that out yet. Then like these new animatronics are built. You got Glamrock Freddy, Glamrock Chica, Montgomery Gator, and Roxanne Wolf, who's kind of like the female version of Foxy. And there's this glitch code that makes all of the animatronics target Gregory to try to get him, but for some reason, Glamrock Freddy is deciding to protect him, and he is like almost like brotherly protective over Gregory. So the theory is that Evan is Gregory, and Glamrock Freddy is actually possessed by Michael Afton, whose spirit didn't pass on after the fire. And so there's this new DLC that's coming out that's supposed to explain everything. But the reason I wanted to talk about all of this story is because Scott Cawthon is an asshole and recently released this book that more or less said, hey, yeah, everything that I've just said may or may not have actually happened at all. I don't know. And so the entire story may or may not be canon anymore. Everything I just said be thrown out the window. Because people who have spent years deciphering this lore basically just got a boot shoved up their ass. Yeah, that is the story. Or maybe it's not. Five Nights at Freddy's. And
more like Five Nights of Imaginary.
Right, exactly. It was all just a dream. Fuck you, Scott.
It's just a story about a nightmare I had.
And that was one of the early theories of like, because Scott made this tweet a few years ago where it's like 4 games, 1 story, and everybody was like, to God, if all of this was a dream, we're coming to your house and burning it down with you inside of it.
I mean, there's other theories that say that movies are just bad dreams, or we can lean on the Grease theory.
Right.
There's
the
a
car
fan
flying
theory.
away at the end.
No, it's like the fact that she may or may not have drowned, and like everything else was her subconscious overaction of her death.
And that's the thing. Like, a lot of people think that the Five Nights at Freddy's 4, where you're playing as like a little kid trapped in a bedroom fighting off all of these like animatronics in your closet and whatnot. I think that game actually Evan's like transition into the afterlife after he got bit in '83. But oh my God, there's so much. Like even today, like you can go on YouTube and there's people who do this for a living. At this point, they're like, I got no fucking idea what Scott's trying to do here. I don't know. Like they pay me to know, and I don't.
Said David Scott, I'm losing my job over this bullshit.
And that's that's probably how those professors feel in freaking Ready Player One.
Right.
How the fuck does this kid know this?
Like, and the whole thing of like why Five Nights at Freddy's was created in the first place was like Scott worked at Dollar General. He wanted to like make video games for his church, teach kids about Jesus, and every time he would come to them with a game, they'd be like, "Scott, your characters look absolutely terrifying." He made a game about like beavers and logs, and they were just like, "We can't show this to children." He was like, "Fine, fuck you. I'll make a horror game."
He said, "No, I've tried. You know what? Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate the opportunity, but I think we're gonna go a different route. Bye."
Yes. Thank you for your consideration, but I've chosen to go with child murder instead of Christianity.
And we also do free sword delivery.
Okay.
And now I'm back.
I mean, isn't there child murder in Christianity?
Actually, I think there was a story
I think
about
it was on the other side.
Oh, right. Sorry. The before Jesus came, yeah, there was
Solomon was just like
the day of, of
No, how about we just kill this lamb here?
they killed a lot of babies trying to. Yeah.
like there's surprisingly a lot of child murder in the Bible. Like whether it was Herod being like, "No, kill everybody under 3 years old,"
That's
or
what
God
that's
looking
like
at
the biggest
Egypt
thing.
and being like, all those firstborns?
Payback, baby.
Right.
He said, "I did not choose an eye for an eye today, guys. Like, we're not doing that."
Reason for reason, tit for tat. There's differences in context of obviously what is said in the Bible, but when it comes to factually, yes, there is a lot of child deaths.
There's a lot of child murder.
There
Especially
was.
like with Abraham, God's first like chosen prophet. Abraham was just like, "Yes, what do you want me to do, God?" And God
Kill
was
your
like,
kid.
"Kill your kid, lol."
I mean, he didn't.
I mean,
Granted,
he was
did.
going
like,
to.
God at the end was just like, "JK, JK." But still, like, imagine being a dad
But he was
and
like,
you find God,
ASAP.
and you're just like, "Yes, God, I will be your servant. Command me." And the first thing God says is like, "You're the child." Like, you can't tell me you're not gonna be like.
Yeah. Say that again.
Right, like, I don't think I.
I don't think I heard you correctly.
I didn't hear him at all. I seen a bunch of mouth movement. And it was just like a yeah, but he was like special delivery. You eat one child, And Abraham was like, "Okay, that's what you say today."
The whole time his son was like, "So, what's this hiking trip about, huh?"
No, I like when they got to the top of the mountain, he sees a stone. He's like, "Oh, hey, Dad, where's the sacrifice?" And Abraham looked at it, and he's like, "God will provide the sacrifice."
Get on the table.
Yeah. Wait, what? You want me to do what? Just lay on the table, close your eyes. It'll be over in a second. Hey, man!
And you can't tell me that as soon as they heard that goat caught in the bushes, Abraham's son didn't, one, let out the biggest sigh of relief that has ever been sighed in the history of humanity, and two, not shit and piss himself at the same time.
No, I mean...
And there was some family issues later on down the road.
Okay, since we're on
that was also the time that God invented therapy.
Right, but later on, we also have another situation where there's another guy, and he's like, "I will never doubt God," and and Satan comes along, and he's like, "Hey, this guy, he says he will never doubt you," and God's like, "Oh, do your worst." And Satan's like, "Oh, right, let me just kill half of your fucking people, half your there goes all your kids."
Notice that his wife was left untouched.
I was gonna say, I'm stealing that from a comedian, and obviously pointed it out because I didn't think about that, but yeah, he, I can't remember his name actually, the comedian's name, but
Nobody
yeah, he's
touched
like
the woman.
He's like, Satan's like, you know what? Livestock gone. Servants gone. And then last thing was children gone. And then
Never
then
touched
he
the
was
wife.
like, you know what? Put boils and warts and shit all over him too. Do that too. And then after that, he's just like, but Satan, what about the wife? Nah.
I know what I'm doing.
Do you know who she is? Do you know what you don't do? You don't piss off the woman.
Because the whole time she was basically just telling Job to be like, fuck off and die already.
Yeah, like you've cost me
said-
everything too.
She
And
said,
Just
Job's
hurry
forced
up
to be
and
in that
do it.
wedding.
and
Just
Job's
forced
just
upon
looking.
that wedding.
Job's just looking at her
Freddy,
like,
you
no,
want that
no,
man.
it'll get better. It'll get better. And she's like, we have nothing. Look at you. You want to die, but can't die. I'm like, just curse God and be dead. And he's like, it'll get better. And
And
The
over in
house
the
is on
corner,
fire.
it'll be
It got
fine,
better.
it'll be fine, it'll be fine. No, Job was literally that meme of the dog in the burning house, like, everything's fine here.
Mm-hmm.
Sips the tea that's nothing in it. Because it evaporated.
Job was the original bad luck Brian.
I mean, but all these stories point to one thing, though. It's always some kind of hope at the end of every darkness.
Yeah, for sure. Unless you're William Afton, and then you're just fucked.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so that was the story, Five Nights at Freddy's, and in now that you guys have the context, how do you feel?
Glad I'd never put time and effort into video game.
not that one anyway. I haven't, but now I kind of wanna.
Yeah, well, you
Yeah.
shouldn't. It's insane.
But I only want to do it in VR now, though.
Because okay, so the VR game, like what they did with the VR game is they took Five Nights at Freddy's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and put them all into one game, so you can play other 4 games in VR. And then they gave a DLC called Curse of Dreadbear, where it's the nightmare versions, and you're in a maze.
What?
This.
Oh, okay. What's this?
This.
Why is it not loading?
Well, I mean, it's loading in
Ah!
but not the big window. But
LOL.com.
I don't have a flash drive.
In
Those things don't
in-
exist anymore. Nobody plays on
in-
flash drive.
What? No, that's a web browser, sir.
Flash drives?
I'm just on a web browser. And that's called en.lol.game or en.gameslol.net. And it has a free version of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Five Nights at Freddy's 1 is pretty easy to get.
Yeah.
But it is a totally different experience playing them in VR. Because I was really good at Five Nights at Freddy's 1, and I could get through the 5 nights and like do the 6th bonus night really easily, because like once I got past like night 2 or 3, fear factor kind of goes down because you start paying attention to like the patterns of the animatronics.
Yeah.
But you look to your right, and there's fucking Bonnie standing there. Bro.
You're like, nope, you're good. Distraction, closed door. The fuck?
Right. Then also, like, sometimes they'll come through the vents. You could be perfectly protected, and then here comes Foxy just doom, 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 doom. Like, no, Daddy, no!
make a noise somewhere in the
Oh,
restaurant, do
oh
something.
my
Don't
god,
know.
I can imagine that happening. But like the worst part would be looking left and right, and then up. And you're like, oh, weird. I swear I heard him. I look down, and his face is just. Come here, boy. Yeah.
And like, yeah, in one of the games, you're sitting in the office, and there's just like this like shut down Freddy suit. You're just like, huh, that's creepy. And so you're playing through the nights, and then you'll hear like, doon tee hee hee, and you're like, huh, what was that? Oh shit, that thing's alive. And if you don't shine your light on it in time, it will straight up just like attack you.
Just
And,
beeline.
yeah. Like also, I've been watching this playthrough of this game. It's a fan game called Five Nights at Freddy's Glitched Attraction, or like Freddy Fazbear's Glitched Attraction.
Okay.
And it's an escape room style game, and I think I was telling you about this, Luke.
Mhm.
And it's an escape room style game where you got to like figure out how to get out of all of these rooms. It's themed around Five Nights at Freddy's, and if you get caught in the Chica room, Chica will just straight up, like, instead of, jump scaring you, she'll just grab you by the shoulder and punch you in the face. She just leans back and haymakers you square in the jaw. Exactly. No, that is the like animation that she does. She just grabs you, leans back, and wham. And if you get caught by Claptrap, shoves you down and then just curb stomps your head in. And I'm like, who would pay money for this? Who's this for? And like, you
I
start the
understand
game.
Oh my god. You say Claptrap, so my brain went straight to like Claptrap.
Oh yeah, Claptrap. No, I get Claptrap confused. Like, Claptrap's not in the game. That would be an entirely different like genre.
Yes,
If you're
but
trying
I
to,
feel like
if you're trying to
like he
get rid of these
should.
animatronics and you
He
turn a
should be
corner
there
after running
one
away
time.
from Bonnie, and he's just like, "Hey, bud, this is kind of fucked, ain't it?"
It's a Billy Monger, but it's not.
He said he comes around the corner and goes, Guess what new Raider gang I joined today? Good news is I'm the general.
Claptrap would be working with William just for the lulz.